Hello and welcome to today's episode of Gotham City Gospel, a place where faith, film, and philosophy interact. Today,
I will help you solve the greatest riddle of all, the mother of all riddles. Who is Batman?
Batman is my favorite fictional character by far. Today, we're going to talk about the birth of the Batman and how it reveals something that makes this character relatable to all of us. The Batman story has been around for over 75 years. Nearly everyone recognizes this symbol, and almost everyone knows Batman's origin story. A young, super rich Bruce Wayne is walking out of a movie theater with his mother and father, and in an instant, his world is shattered when they're murdered right in front of his face just by some petty criminal. And this helps us realize something about this character. One of the best ways I think you can describe Batman is to say that Batman is a fallen character. To speak about someone as fallen is to say two things at the same time. One, that they find themselves out of place in their world, and two, that they find something wrong within themselves. Bruce Wayne discovers this at an early age, that despite all his wealth and his power, the world is a dark and nasty place. He also understands that, relatively speaking, he's still weak and ineffective in this world, and he's taken over by fear, grief. In a way, Bruce is locked into the moment where his parents died. This is illustrated well in a Justice League cartoon where all of the Justice League is turned into children.
A bargain is a bargain. Circumstances aside, it was kind of enjoyable to be a kid again.
I haven't been a kid since I was 8 years old.
Not many of us have had our parents murdered in front of us, but I bet all of us can point to one or a few instances in which we feel like our innocence was lost. I think about one of Martin Luther King's speeches when he talks about explaining racism to his daughter. This experience of the brokenness of the world and our loss of innocence is common to all of us, and I don't know how you make sense of it, but as a Christian, we can see that the Bible describes what has been known as the fall in several different ways. I like to say, think 3:23. Genesis 3:23 says, God banished Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden, and men and women have been separated from paradise. Romans 3:23 says, for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. This means that each person has themselves sinned and there's a brokenness inside of us. So to say someone is fallen is both to say that they have lost paradise and also that they are broken inside. I'm not trying to shoehorn my theology into the Batman story. You can see that this has been picked up by directors. Just look at the opening of Batman vs. Superman.
There was a time above, a time before. There were perfect things, diamond absolutes. Things fall, things on earth, and what falls is fallen.
No, Alfred, it's not all right. Bruce just discovered that the world is fallen, that he is fallen. And this is why I think Batman is so relatable, and why so many of these other superhero movies are so relatable. Because they explore the idea that this world is broken. Biblically speaking, Batfleck's monologue goes like this. In Genesis 1 and 2, God created the world good, and out of chaos he creates order, and he creates men and women in his own image to continue this work, to create order out of this world and enhance beauty and reflect God's character back into this world. But man and woman had their own ideas. They decided that they weren't enough like God already, and that they would choose to decide what is good and evil for themselves. And that is what's behind this taking of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And Genesis 2 ends in a very interesting verse. It says, Adam and his wife were both naked, and they felt no shame. And then a few verses later in chapter 3 it says, Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. There's something about this loss of innocence, this experience of the fall, that makes us feel naked and exposed and vulnerable and weak and ashamed. And this is what Bruce Wayne experiences. So, how does he react? He creates the Batman, this creature of the night that strikes fear in the hearts of criminals who have used fear to prey on those who are fearful. This is Bruce Wayne's way of putting on fig leaves, of covering his shame. The way I see it, the Batman is not just a way for like a rich and powerful guy to help out his city when he sees a problem. I think Bruce Wayne needs the Batman. He uses the Batman to cover over his feeling of powerlessness. Just take a look at this scene from The Dark Knight.
Dear Bruce, I need to be honest and clear. When I told you that if Gotham no longer needed Batman, we could be together, I meant it. But now I'm sure the day won't come when you no longer need Batman. I hope it does.
Sadly, Bruce Wayne needs the Batman. He needs a way to address the nakedness and shame and the feeling of powerlessness in his life. The Adam and Eve story doesn't end with fig leaves. It doesn't end completely in nakedness and shame. Sure, they're banished from the garden and they receive judgment, and the world is broken because of what they've done, how they've failed to rule the world the way God would have them rule. A big difference between Bruce Wayne's experience of the fall and Adam and Eve's experience of the fall is that Adam and Eve experience a bit of grace. Their issues of shame are actually addressed. We read that God, before he sent them away, clothed them in animal skins. So, in spite of their understanding that they're naked and ashamed, God clothes them and protects them in their vulnerability. And this is what Bruce Wayne will probably never experience, because it's a serial story about a crime fighter who fights crime not just out of altruism, but out of a need to cover his shame and vulnerability. And this is one of the reasons I love the Batman story so much, because like you, I've experienced the fall. I've experienced the way this world is broken. I've experienced the way I am broken and vulnerable and ashamed. Like Bruce, I put on fig leaves that help me protect myself from my nakedness and shame. The New Testament describes the Christian life as somebody who's been clothed with Christ, not denying the idea that we are naked and sinful and broken, but that we are covered by the grace of God. This is why I think the Batman character is so relatable, and one of the reasons why so many people like this character. This is the interaction of faith, film, and philosophy in our lives. Batman is a fallen character, and we all have experiences of our own fallenness. If you like exploring the interaction of faith, film, and philosophy, you should take a look at other places like Cinemagogue, Popcorn Theology, or Real World Theology. If you like what I was saying about the Bible itself, I've been highly influenced by a YouTube channel put on by the Bible Project. Thanks for watching, and until next time, grace and peace, my friends.